Okay, so I was working for this fucking company, and I'm not like they were dicks.
Yeah.
They're fucking shitty people. They're awful. And like one works for like the union operators board, and the other one, and she's like also a lawyer for the labor board.
Oh god, automatically
And,
the worst
like,
people possible.
Well, it's collusion.
Yeah.
And it's a conflict of interest. But was one of the owners of this fucking company. And they broke all of the rules all the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, we had to go and tie gabion baskets. So it's like this wire mesh, and you put giant rocks in it. And so I tie them into squares, and then they drop a bunch of rocks in it, and we tie them up and use them for like retaining walls and shit.
Yeah.
And there was a guy, and he was a good operator, but he liked to fuck around with the horn all the time.
Yeah.
I was actually talking to my buddy today at the dog park about this story. So he'd always beep it when there was like hot chicks.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was kind of nice.
Yeah.
But until
What a
it,
bro.
until it wasn't. So it ice rained. It was really warm the day before, and then it ice rained.
Yeah.
And like, PCL was the general, and they're
Yeah.
supposed to provide salt. They didn't, so
Yeah.
I salted what I could in the morning because I was the laborer.
Yeah.
And I started tying baskets, and it's a confined site, so I was tying behind the backhoe. And then, so he honked, and I went to get up and walk away, but I slipped on the ice and fell.
Oh,
underneath.
no.
So when he looked back, he
Didn't
saw me get up and start walking away. So
Okay.
he figured it was clear, and then started backing up because he didn't spin his seat around. He was just pushing the controls back. And then he put his bucket down, but my legs had slipped under the bucket, and his fucking bucket crushed both my fucking feet.
Oh no.
The only thing that saved me from being completely obliterated was the fact that the ground had thawed the night before.
Oh, and you were pushed
Yeah,
through.
so it pushed me down and then broke my feet in half.
Fuck.
Yeah, it was insane. And then those fucking cocksuckers. So this is where it gets shitty. So my boss drove me to the hospital, and I got all fixed up, and they gave me like this tiny little bottle of Hydromorse.
Yeah.
And like people that don't know me is I like to party really hard for a long time. So I'm like, what is this gonna do?
Yeah.
Like more, please. So and then like my boss. Yeah. So I just like took all of my Hydromorphs the first day and drank a bunch of fucking Grey Goose.
Yeah.
And like I felt great for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I was just a little bit hungover, and I was like, I really got to change my lifestyle because like it's gonna cost me way too much money to get fucking high anymore.
Yeah.
And I went to the hospital to get like looked at again, and I'm like, you guys got any more painkillers? Like my feet still hurt. Trying to get free drugs, and they're like, no, like that's enough for most people. And I'm like, I'm narcotic resistant.
Narcotic resistant. Fuck.
We've been like partying our lives away for like the last 300 years.
Yeah.
Give me harder shit. And they said no. But when they looked at my foot, so the first lady came in and she's like, your foot's fucking toast.
Yeah.
We're going to have to reset it or we'll pin it. And then the next lady came in and she's like, your foot's fucking toast. We're going to have to reset it or pin it.
Yeah.
And then the last guy came in and he was like, the perimeters of your foot are fine. So like, you'll be all right. And I'm like, sweet. And like, I had the x-rays and it's just like bone. It looks like a grenade exploded in my foot. And I'm like, what perimeter? What about the inside? Like, it's dust. And now it's just like, if you touch like the top of my foot, I can't even remember. It's like the metacardial, like all these bones, but in your foot. It's just a solid circle. Like I have a bone club for a foot. Like my foot looks nice. Like but like inside, like when you start pushing around in there, it's just like. And then one of my buddies is like a JTF instructor, and his wife or girlfriend is one of the sweetest ladies you ever meet, but she does all the physio and stuff. And she's the like kind of like a doctor for them. And then so I showed her my x-rays and I told her about my foot, and she's like, your foot's fucked. So she got me like what she could. Yeah. It was like special insoles and told me about stuff I could do to like take care of it. But she's like, eventually you're going to get creep because they didn't fix your foot. Yeah. And it'll just like, you'll look like you're wearing elf shoes. And I'm like, oh, this day just keeps getting better. So like, I think like 3 or 4 days later, the owner's son and the safety rep they hired showed up for me to fill out my paperwork. Yeah. And like, I had never been through this process before, didn't know what the fuck was going on. So I was like, I can't walk. And he's like, well, just like, if you can't work, just tick, like you can't work. It's okay. Yeah. So it's like, all right, like, cause I can't do anything. Like it's a construction job. Yeah. And then like the other guy, like the safety rep was like, he was like sweating. Yeah. Like, well, this other kid was, if I could remember his name, I doubt him, but I can't. Yeah. Elgin. That was his name. Elgin. Okay. Elgin. So I filled out all my paperwork, and then I went with my buddy because I had no drugs, so I had to go to the bar. Yeah. So my buddy drove me to the bar, and like I got all the attention because like I had 2 fucking air casts on. Yeah. And I started drinking and hanging out with my bar dad and telling him about like they came and filled out my paperwork, and he immediately like his ears perked up, and he's like, well, what did you put in there? So I told him like I couldn't work, and he's like, call them tomorrow, tell them you were high off your fucking ass, and that you are ready for work, because they can just fucking shit can you. Like, if he doesn't want to work, that's his problem. Yeah. And like their hands are clean. Luckily enough, I didn't even have to do that, because the fucking safety rep was so overwhelmed and exhausted and stressed out by all the bullshit they put him through, not to mention ruining this young person's life, being me. Yeah. He quit and took all of my paperwork with him. So Elgin had to come back again. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, just, fill it out the same way as you did before. And I was like, no. And I filled it out the right way. And he was standing in my doorway, went white as a sheet, his eyes got super big, turned around and called his dad, who was in the Turks and Caicos. Yeah. And he's like, he put that he wants to work. And I'm like, I can hear you still. Like, what are you doing? Because they try that, like, salesman pitch. Like, everything's going to be all right, young fella. Yeah. And then I was on to their game, because I was graced by the good, teachings of my bar dad. Yeah. And you could just see it in his face. And I'm like, why would you even fucking do that? Well, like, I've done nothing to you. Yeah,
it's just crooks, bro.
Oh, yeah. They're fucking crooked as shit. So anyway, and then I never fucking did anything, but there was an investigation, right? Because, like, I obviously filed and said, like, it happened at work. Yeah. And this cool dude, Frank, came over from, like, the ministry and, like, went through the case and showed everything. And then, like, they were fucking bitching and, harassing me. And then a couple months later, they fucking ended up going through with pushing charges and taking them to court. And it wasn't on me. It was just the findings proved that they were negligent. Yeah. And then they called and fucking harassed me again. And I'm like, I didn't fucking, like, we don't, our lips are fucking sealed, man. We don't fucking out anybody. Yeah. So, yeah, it was fucked. But I should have sued them. I could have been like Oprah Rich.
Yeah, you could have. Yeah. You can still probably can.
I'm too old and tired now.
Too old and tired to make $1 million money. $1 million bucks.
$1 million money.
$1 million monies.
Yeah, give me some monies. I'm pretty certain, like, there's a statute of limitations on that.
I don't know. Maybe something you'll read about.
Mm-hmm. Not interested.
Not interested? All right, fair enough.
I might. We'll see. But yeah, and then, like, my back went fucking janky. Like, just when I started working for another company. Mm-hmm. And, like, all the people there, including my foreman, like, I love. Yeah. But, like, my back was fucked. And then I told them my back was fucked. And then I said, like, I'm going to WSIB. Yeah. And this is where a lot of my hatred for WSIB, because I've been through that process, like, twice at this point. And, like, my back was fucked. Like, it was causing me to, like, throw up and, like, sweat and have blurred vision. And, like, yeah, it was a big mess. Like, my back was fucking toast. And they always fall back to, like, the book says. And it's not the same as, like, how things actually happen. Yeah. Right? Like, we were lifting way more than 50 pounds. Yeah. And it was not, like, ergonomical. Yeah.
No one does it that way.
Well, and, like, your scaffold isn't situated to even, like, let you carry things the way you want them to. Yeah. And pick things up the way you want them to. And the workload, you're going fast. So, like, you're all hunched over and fucked up. And, like, when you're lifting planks, they're, like, 50-pound, 60-pound planks, but you're picking them up this way and trying to pull them in. Like, it's insane. So, anyway, I told them, like, I'm calling WSIB because, like, I can't take a shit without crying. Yeah. And, like, my life is fucked and I'm throwing up and, like all this stuff is happening. Yeah. So, they're like, don't call. That's what this company told me. Don't call. We'll figure something out. Yeah. Let us go through some stuff first. And they, like, blacklisted me because I called them anyway. Yeah. Because it's going to be like, fuck you. Like, I've done this before and I got screwed. So I'll go through WSIB, teach you guys, and I'll make sure I'm protected. Mm-hmm. So the first person you call is this very lovely human being who's like, same pitch. Don't worry, young fella, we'll get you right as rain. Yeah. I was like, awesome, thank God. When we'll have the caseworker, we'll call you and work out, like, what's going on, and we'll contact your employer. Yeah. The caseworker calls you, not the same as the first person. Yeah. And again, like, this isn't racially driven. This is language barrier driven, and it affected my life. Yeah. This person could not speak English worth a fuck. Yeah. And on top of that, had no idea what being a mason tender was. Zero idea. And thought that in her stupid fucking shithead world, and she's right beside Miss Buell because this fucked up my life. That little orange book that they give you is how things are done on job sites. And it's not the case. Yeah. So she's like, tell me your story. And I told her, like, I've been working in construction for X amount of years. I had this happen to my foot this amount of years ago. This is what my daily tasks are. This is what I've been doing. Yeah. This is what I go through. This is how much the weight is. This is how I lift it. This is. Yeah. And it's a big spiel, right? Like it's 5 minutes, but 5 minutes of going through all this stuff that you've had to put together for these people. Tell me again, what did you do?
Yeah.
And like, I don't know where, like, are you on the moon? How are you this bad at your job?
Yeah.
Like, or put me through to someone that can speak English. And like, it doesn't work out. And then they just like label you as like, you can't talk to us this way because it's racist, Mr. Peter. And like, just shut up. And I'm trying to communicate what happened.
Yeah.
So then go through the story again, and then go through the story again. Oh, repeat that. Repeat this part. Repeat that part. Repeat this part. Repeat that. And like, I'm on the phone now for like 45 minutes talking with someone who can't communicate with me.
Yeah.
You're losing your fucking mind. Not to mention you're in tremendous amount of pain.
Yeah.
And like your livelihood and like all of your shit.
Everything you have
is on the line. So finally get through that process. So thanks, I got enough information. Calls me like fucking 3 days later. Based on what you've said and what your employer said, there's no case here. Little did I know that if I had applied a second time, again, because you're not told any of that shit, you'd probably get through and get your claim. Yeah. But yeah, they just fucked me.
But well, that's the thing right there. So WSIB
isn't there for you.
It's not there for you. They're there for themselves. And your business and your HR and your union is not there for you. The union is there for...
You want another cool union story?
Sure.
I can do whatever I want because like I'm not part of them anymore.
Oh, fuck unions. I hate unions.
I like unions.
I like classic unions. Anything today, garbage.
Fair enough. Agreed. So I was working in Petawawa.
Yeah.
And I was with the PCL guy and like a laborer.
Yeah.
And he called because like you're supposed to get all of these benefits for working out of town and all this stuff, and you're supposed to get a certain wage based on what your responsibilities are.
You get like you guys get like what's it called, food, right?
Well, like
extra money for food or some shit.
You're supposed to get extra money for like your living expenses and stuff. Like it there's a little bit of a variance depending on what you're doing and where you're going and what your title is. Yeah. But anyway, so calls the union office, and I'm like working beside him because like these guys are complaining about like how they're being treated by PCL, which is a giant fucking company.
Yeah, it's a massive company.
And they're getting like they're saving like $200+ a person a day. Yeah, like it's a lot. Like they're getting fucked. Yeah. Calls the union, and the rep on the phone tells them, "Oh, we have a handshake agreement with PCL, so there's literally nothing we can do for you," and hung up on. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm like, why don't you call like
above?
Like call the states where like our head office is, and like tell them like, hey, aren't you guys supposed to be about protecting the workers because they employ like 10,000 fucking people that they're doing this to? Yeah. And they're pocketing. That's the other thing. So like when I hurt my foot, I got to work in the office. Yeah. And then when I was in the office, I got to do a bunch of paperwork. Yeah. Which I could have been an asshole and said like that's below me. Yeah. Because they have like that clause in there, but I was like, no, because I'm a whore for information. Yeah. So all of the things, because they would fuck us too. Yeah. But all of the things that they weren't paying us for, they still charge for.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Isn't that fucking crazy? And like,
I'm not surprised at all.
No. And like both those companies do the same fucking thing. Yeah. But they pocket it and they split it up between the upper echelon. And that's why they pull up in Jags and they have all this cool shit, or they'll buy real estate or like. Oh yeah. But they do that from exploiting the worker.
Yeah. Which is why, fuck big businesses.